Devblog review. Well, we sure do have a lot of stuff to talk about. So, over the last 2 days, we have had a ton of stuff unveiled on the War Thunder website, as well as in a test server live stream. So let's get right into this. First off, radar. We now have radar in game. Very big thing here. First off, aircraft have radar. So the vehicles that have been given this for aircraft are the LA-200, the MiG-19, the F40 Skyknight, the Sea Venom, the Javelin, Dornier 217, two night fighter variants of the Dornier 217, and the Heinkel 219. So these aircraft now have radar. They do various different things, one of which is for aircraft. You will now get a target lead indicator on the target, sort of help you be a bit more accurate with your shooting, as well as also sort of just showing you where enemy targets are, so you can spot them from further distances. Now, that is all very good. Higher tier aircraft, as I said, will get a lead indicator, but mostly just knowing where enemy targets are from longer distance is incredibly useful, especially in night games. The aircraft that have radar now will have a massive advantage in night games, which is definitely going to be very fun. Now, some other stuff to talk about, ground vehicles. So first off, standard SPAAs with radar, with a big radar antenna, now have radar. This will allow for, obviously, better tracking of the target. The way I understand it is now the vehicle's turret will sort of track the enemy target, and you just have to really aim the guns a little bit just to get on target, which is very good. That's going to make AA a lot more powerful. Obviously, this is a counter to helicopters and far more capable close air support aircraft. Another nice little feature of this is that the radar dish does now fold down when the radar is not engaged, which will help with these vehicles not being spotted, because of course having a radar dish sticking above you spinning around does actually make it a lot easier for the enemy to see you, as it makes your vehicle a lot taller. So having like the radar fold down on like the Geopard and all those things will be incredibly useful. Now, also the automatic has this. The automatic, obviously, that radar is very big, so having that fold down again, a very useful feature. Now, there is one other thing with this radar that has been implemented that they didn't really talk about much on the actual devblog, but this is SAMs. We have surface-to-air missiles only on a single vehicle that we know of so far, this being the Russian 3 PRK-2S6, also known as, I'm probably going to butcher this translation or this pronunciation, the Tunguska, I think. Just tell me how badly I messed it up in the comments. Anyway, though, this thing has got SAMs. If we saw on the live stream, there should be some footage playing in the background now. They are user-guided. They are not fully automatic. These missiles, you fire them, and you have to guide them like an ATGM with your mouse, I believe, and actually go to hit the target. So maybe if an enemy aircraft is being very maneuverable and they're going around doing turns, it might be a bit difficult. If, in the other hand, they're flying straight towards you, straight away from you, or directly across, it should be quite easy to hit them. Now, obviously, this is a big change in the meta. Definitely, for the most part, it is to go against helicopters and close air support in tank games, but also having some aircraft that have them will definitely help in longer range engagements, in night games, or even just in daytime games in ARB. So after looking at that devblog, we then came along and we got a live stream from both the Russian side of War Thunder and the sort of English-speaking side. And this live stream did show some very interesting stuff. First off, obviously they showed the radar mechanic, which is the footage that you saw a few minutes ago, and they also showed a new type of armor design, where they can have sort of different more complex shapes of armor, which was interesting, but I'm not really going to go into detail with that now. But in terms of vehicles, the first thing they showed off that we didn't know about is a brand new M1 Abrams, the M1A1. So very interesting there. This is going to be the first tier 7 vehicle for the Americans. 10.0 BR on the test server. Do remember, test server, all of the data that we see here could change. Obviously, 120mm cannon. It is a sort of variant of the gun that we see on the Leopard 2K and the Leopard 2A4. I believe it's the L44, but this is an American license-built version. So this tank, M1 Abrams, I believe it's got a slight improvement in the armor, slight improvement in the gun. Of course, though, we have not got a devblog on this yet, so I'm not going to talk about it much, but we do have a new Abrams, and I will speak about it more either when I'm on the dev server or if we see a devblog before then. Next thing to mention is that the Mi-24 helicopters now have got their own cockpit model. So very interesting here. They showed off the cockpit on the test server, and it is very nice. Very nicely detailed, very good to see. Helicopters now getting cockpits, definitely something good. Although I must say, please give us some bomber cockpits. I want a B-17 cockpit, I want all this stuff, but still, helicopters, they have cockpits now, not all helicopters. As far as we know, the French H-35, which we are going to talk about in a minute, and the Mi-24s are the only ones that we know about for sure that actually have cockpit models. But anyway, very nice to see they are including a cockpit model in the Heinz. So next up we have what we believe is the first helicopter on the French helicopter tech tree. I, a minute ago, said it was called the H-35. It is in fact the H-34, but this helicopter is very interesting. Derived from an American helicopter, the British also had this helicopter design in their service. I believe it was called the Westland Whirlwind in British service. Anyway though, Tier 5, 9.0 BR. Interesting armament. First off, 9 7.62mm Browning machine guns, 2 AGM-22 ATGMs, and then also 6 HVAR rockets, as you can see, mounted on the side of the helicopter. Very interesting design. Obviously, this is a piston-powered helicopter, so interesting stuff there. Top speed of 284 kilometers per hour, which isn't too slow, to be honest. So generally, interesting looking heli. Of course, we will talk about that more when we actually get a devblog for it. Another thing that we were showing is the brand new French Tier 6 jet, the MD-460, also known as the Super Mystère. So this aircraft, 2 30mm DEFA 5.52 cannons, 2 AIM-9B sidewinders, and also 35 SNEB rockets mounted in an internal storage bay, which actually very interestingly lowers down and fires off salvos of, I believe they said, 7 rockets at once, which is very interesting there, and they're centrally mounted, so those rockets probably going to be quite deadly. We know the SNEBs already are very deadly rockets in Tank RB, having them all firing from the center of the aircraft, so you can aim it very easily and in very closely packed sort of firing salvos of 7 rockets. That's going to do a lot of damage. But this aircraft, Super Mystère, first supersonic we're getting for the French, so definitely very nice to see. Another thing that I'm not really going to go into much detail of, at least for the time being, is more advanced air-to-air missiles for the F100 and the MiG-19. The only one I know for sure is that the F100 now has the AIM-9E Sidewinder, which has been in the files and is certainly a more advanced version of the Sidewinder we have already. Not entirely sure what the MiG-19 has. Do let me know if you know specifically what it has got. Now, we also got a far closer look at the Alaska map, both from the air in an Mi-24 and on the ground with the T-80U. Very interesting map. I actually really do like it. It looks quite small. It looks like it's a small map, but I do like the map design. I love that it's got a city landscape. The main thing I'm thinking about is custom battles. Doing custom battles where you can land helis on top of the high-rise buildings, drive around. It's just, I think it's going to be a very nice map for custom battles, most of all. How it will actually perform in actual tank games is still to be seen. But nonetheless, I really do love the map design for this map, and I really do hope they have taken the time needed to really get this ready for the game and really not have another Vietnam situation. But nonetheless, very nice to see a brand new map being added into the game. And finally, from the test server livestream, we have a Tier 4 light cruiser for the Germans, the Nuremberg, which is a very big cruiser. It is slightly less powerful, I've heard, than the new American and, I believe, Russian light cruisers. But nonetheless, it is a fairly quick, fairly powerful cruiser, light cruiser that is, for the Germans. You have got 3 tri-sets of 15cm cannons, and then you have a load of dual Flak 88s, then you have a load of smaller anti-aircraft guns, just generally a lot of stuff. So it is good to see boats getting bigger. Personally, I don't play boats, but it is always good to see other game modes being added to, and people do enjoy boats, so it is good to see more stuff being added to them. And in the future, you know, if they add even bigger boats, getting up to battleships, all those kind of things, I might actually get into boats, because it is looking like it is actually beginning to improve and shape out into a very mature game mode. So after the test server stream ended, we were given some new premium packs. Now, mostly Tier 5s and Tier 6 premiums. Now, we got the first actual new Tier 6 premium in the form of the Type 74 Mod G, which was actually shown on the test server stream. There'll be footage of that in the background. Now, this is €59.99, comes with the Japanese Type 74 G tank, which is an updated version of the Type 74. This is a Tier 6 premium. I believe this is the first new Tier 6. Tanks like the XM1 will likely be moved up, but this is the first one to be released released as a tier 6. 2,000 golden eagles, 15 days premium, and a few pre-order bonuses. So certainly an interesting tank to take a look at. Now, we also got a few other things, mostly jets, tier 5 jet premiums for nations that don't have them yet. First off, the French. Of course, they're getting the Super Mystere, so they get a tier 5 premium, this being an Israeli variant of the Valtor 2A. It's basically the same as the Valtor 2A in-game, only that this can mount the Shafir 1 air-to-air missile, which was used by the Israeli Valtors. So, interesting aircraft. As you can see, you get an Israeli skin, 2,000 golden eagles, 15 days premium, and some pre-order bonuses. 49.99 euros, very interesting pack overall. A Valtor. Fast aircraft, good in a straight line. Only issue I would think of is up tiering, possibly facing out against MiG-19s, which will catch you. And also, this thing is basically a brick when turning, and especially considering that we're getting more advanced, more maneuverable missiles like the AIM-9E, that could be a problem for this aircraft, especially when traveling at high speeds. It doesn't really like turning so well. Now for the Germans, we got the tier 5 premium version of the Seahawk. Now many people thought this would be a G91. I did slightly speculate when I looked over the Seahawks devblog for the British that the Germans could get one as a premium, and I was right. We do have a German Seahawk premium. Now this is the Seahawk Mark 100. As far as I can tell, the only difference between this version and the British version is that this actually has a taller rudder. The tail fin is actually taller. Not sure why the Germans decided to do that, but that is the one difference we have. This can mount 2 AIM-9B sidewinders, as well as all the other payloads we saw in the actual Seahawk devblog, and according to Gaijin, the British Seahawk will also be able to mount the AIM-9B. So this is the only one of these tier 5s that I am considering getting. Main reason being that after the dev server, if this is at a lowish rating, like 7.7, having an aircraft at that rating that is a small aircraft, decent top speed, decent maneuverability, and has air-to-air missiles, it could turn out to be pretty fun. And with these missiles at a lower sort of tier, bomber hunting could be incredibly fun. So this might be one that I would consider getting. Generally, the German skin also looks very nice, so certainly a vehicle I think is very nice for the Germans. And finally, in terms of tier 5 jet premiums, we have the F40 Sabre. This is not, though, the standard F40 Sabre. This version has a different paint scheme, and also if you pre-order, you do get a Japanese aerobatic team paint scheme, or aerobatic team camouflage, as a pre-order bonus, the leader of the Blue Impulse aerobatics team. So interesting paint scheme you get there. This can also mount 2 AIM-9B sidewinders, as well as any other payloads that the F40 can carry. Of course, the F40 Sabre, I believe, slightly more powerful engine, as well as upgraded wings. They're slightly longer and also have improved slats on the leading edge, which allow for better low-speed control of the aircraft. Of course, we do have some joint packs for these. We have, first off, a pack that features the Type 74 and the Sabre for $76.99. If you want to get the Japanese vehicles, you might as well grab that. That's 30% off them together, and they do look like decent vehicles. Personally, I will not be buying them myself, but there is an option there. You also have the option to get the Leopard 1 M1A1 L44 and the Seahawk in a bundle together. Now, this is interesting. I already have the Leo, so I could get the Seahawk for 34.99 euros, which is a lot cheaper, and that is partially why I'm also considering getting it at some point soon, if it looks to be a good aircraft on the dev server. So next thing to quickly talk about is the devblog on the Tunguska, the brand new Russian anti-aircraft vehicle. So I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail, I'm just going to give you what you need to know. First off, the actual guns. The guns themselves are 30mm autocannons, and you have a fire rate of 4,000 rounds per minute, with an ammo box of 3,800 rounds. So you can't actually fire for a full minute, but you can really get rid of a lot of ammunition in a very short space of time. Now, you also have 8 9 M311 ground-to-air missiles. I almost said air-to-ground there, but no, ground-to-air missiles. You have SAMs, surface-to-air. These are guided in a very similar way to second generation's ATGMs, the way they work in game. You simply guide with your mouse, very similar to how you would use ATGMs from one helicopter to shoot down another helicopter in Helicopter Injury and Confrontation. Very similar to that. So that is basically what I would actually advise doing to practice for this. Now, this is based on the chassis of the GM 5970 multi-purpose combat vehicle. So it is basically a universal chassis with this anti-aircraft turret on. Obviously, it's got the radar mechanic that we've heard about, and this will be coming in 1.87. The update is now officially called Locked On, so very interesting there. So the last thing that I'm going to be talking about in this video is one of the aircraft from this update that I am more excited for. This is probably in my top 2 or 3 vehicles for this update that I'm really hyped to see. So this is the Mitsubishi T2K, and this was actually the first domestically designed and produced Japanese supersonic military aircraft. So this was developed in the early 1970s and was actually in service all the way up until the early 2000s. So this is definitely not an old aircraft. This is actually rather modern, and this will be the first supersonic aircraft of Tier 6 for the Japanese aviation tech tree. Now this is powered by 2 F40 801A turbojets. These have, of course, afterburners, and this is actually a license-built version of a Rolls-Royce jet engine, so kind of a British engine that is being license-built. So these are able to produce a base thrust of 20.95 kilonewtons, although with the afterburners you can go up to 31 kilonewtons, so a massive increase there in both thrust and also presumably the fuel the fuel usage of the aircraft. Now, another thing to look at is the speed. Now, in the Devblog, it says it has a top speed of 1,975 kilometers per hour, or Mach 1.6, although in all of the official information I can find on the aircraft, it claims it's only 1,700 kilometers per hour. So a bit iffy there, not sure on the exact top speed, although it definitely is fairly high. Now, that speed still is at least 200 kilometers per hour. Whatever it is at least 200 kph faster than even the MiG-19S. So if nothing else is added to be in the middle of that speed range, and there is still a tiny chance that we might see something like an early MiG-21 or something like that, this will easily be the fastest aircraft in the game by quite a large margin. So we are going to have to wait and see how exactly this pans out. So another thing I noticed while looking at the pictures is it appears that in one of the pictures the drogue parachute slot on the back of the aircraft is actually open. Does this mean we will be seeing a usable parachute on landing in an airplane? I will of course have it circled in the background. You should be able to see it now. That looks to me like the drogue parachute, like the sort of drag chute from landing. If that is open, will we be getting a drag parachute to be used on landings? If so, that is very cool. Certainly something I would be very interested to test out and see exactly how that's modeled and how that would work. Anyway though, armament. First off, you have a single 20mm rotary cannon. Of course, that is, I believe, a Vulcan cannon, a gun that is very heavily used on stuff like versions of the Phantom, the Starfighter, so that's a gun that I think we're going to be seeing a lot in the near future. Now, this aircraft can also be outfitted with both conventional bombs, unguided rocket pods, as well as 2 wingtip-mounted AIM-9B sidewinders. That's the early variant of the missile that we have in-game, and this is a good variety of armament. This means this will not only be a top performer in air battles with the air-to-air capability, but also a very good pick to use in ground battles. As you can see in one of the pictures, 2 sidewinders on the wingtips, as well as also having a load of bombs on both the wings and under fuselage pylons. So definitely very interesting there. And also, one thing I must commend Gaijin with is the paint schemes. Of course, there's that standard grey, orange, and sort of black camouflage, standard military paint scheme. You also have a camouflage paint scheme with sort of a some nose art on the front, all that sort of stuff. And then you also have, I believe it's the Blue Impulse Aerobatic Team paint scheme, which I have to say, Gaijin, these skins look beautiful. Thank you very much. It's a lovely looking airplane. And these skins look incredibly nice. Definitely a nice treat for both general fans of jet aviation and general fans of Japanese aviation in-game. So this is a brilliant aircraft to see. Japan is finally getting some very much needed love from Gaijin in the aircraft department, so brilliant stuff to see here. Anyway though, I am going to end the video there, so if you did enjoy, smash the like button, maybe subscribe to the channel. But before I end, the last thing to do is of course to give these past 2 days of devlogs and reveals a rating on the bacon scale. I am going to have to go with crispy bacon. It has been insane. It has been the most packed sort of days of reveals I have seen for ages for a War Thunder update. We have seen so many things. New supersonic jets, new top tier tanks, new mechanics. It is insane. Most of all, I love the Japanese T2. It is a beautiful looking jet aircraft. Very nice camouflages. M1A1 on the live stream, they were just like, yeah, here we go, M1A1. Cockpits for helicopters. Very nice to see. Radar mechanic, it's insane. So, crispy bacon rating. I cannot wait to see this update. It's going to be one of the biggest and possibly one of the best updates of all time for War Thunder. So I really do hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you have enjoyed looking through all of these new additions, and I will see you soon looking at some more stuff for update 1.87.